guys, Hampshire Outdoors and Survival here, it's Mick. Right, firstly I've got to apologise, this video is not going to be filmed up the woods today. I'm off colour. I'm taking medication which actually says don't drive, and I'm feeling pretty crap. However, it's Friday and I promised myself I would get a video out for you today, and I do apologise that last week's was a bit late as well. That came out on the Saturday. However, it's windy. It's very windy. The wind's here in this part of the UK is swung round to the northwest. It's blowing a hoolie. The sky's relatively clear. The wind's got a bit of a chill to it. Today's video, I've sat looking back through the comments, and I've got a couple of the guys that commented have told me the countries they live in and the places they live are prone to things like cyclones and so on and so on and so on. And that led me to thinking, what would I do here in the UK in a powered down situation? You know, how would I heat my house? How would I make food? How would I clean water? And I'm not talking necessarily about, you know, oh, it's the end of the world, we're going to have to survive in the trees for the next 16 years. What I'm talking about is something that could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. And for those that doubt it, they're probably a lot younger, the Great Storm. I live in the southeast of England. When we had the Great Storm of, I believe it was 89, there were parts in my area, there were people that were stuck without power for 2 to 3 weeks until the energy companies could clear the roads, get the lines back up and so on. So yeah, it could happen in theory. So I decided, out of all my cook sets, what would be my go-to? What would I set up to use to provide clean water? Bear in mind pumping stations are going to go down and things like that in a long-term problem. Cook food and maybe even provide a bit of heat. Bear in mind I live in a pretty bog standard 1960s built house in southern England, so it's got no fireplace. It relies on the central heating to keep it warm. Its insulation standards are probably pretty poor. So first things first, hunker down, find a central room, make that your warmest room, find out which one's going to hold the heat the best, make that where you're going to eat, sleep, rest and carry on. So you're in a nice central position, you're nice and warm. If you're going to cook inside your house, and you can, use the Trangier, use your gas stoves and so on, but please, you know, think all the time fire. Have yourself set up so if it spilt, if it ignited, if it caused a problem, could I then put it out? That should be your first thought. Your second thought should be carbon monoxide poisoning. Crack a window open, make sure there's a little bit of a gap, seal that room off the other. You're not losing heat, but it's somewhere you can cook and you can do things. Think about the base of whatever you're cooking. Is it on a surface that could possibly ignite? Is it on something that could melt? You know, if it means taking a frying pan out of the cupboard, sticking a frying pan down and putting your burner on the frying pan just to make it a bit more stable, a bit more safe, do so. It's all logical, it's all common sense. The spot I'm in the garden, I tried to find somewhere sheltered. I've actually found a corner that's quite blowy, but it's out of the main wind. Behind you is my gazebo. Unfortunately, you're going to hear that flapping around, moving up and down. I do apologise. So we'll get on with the video, we'll crack into this. I've written some notes because I am feeling off colour. Normally I do everything off the top of my head. I've written some notes to remind me of where I'm going. So please, I hope you enjoy the video. I hope you get something out of it, and maybe makes you think about what you would do in that situation yourself. Anyhow, this is Mick, this is Hampshire Outdoors and Survival. Let's have a look at some emergency home prepping systems. Okay, so I have recently acquired a gasifier stove. I've never used one before. It only came the other day, and as you're all aware, my favourite, my go-to for me is the Kelly kettle. I think Kelly kettle is one of the fastest, most efficient systems for boiling water. Obviously using the Kelly kettle on top, you can boil water in no time, and the other thing you can then do is turn it into a stove, and as a stove it works very, very well. But somebody said to me, try the gasifier, it works better. Well, you know, I've been with this thing for many years, but you have to try new stuff, you have to give it a go. So you have to bear with me if I do it wrong. However, I've watched numerous channels and how-tos and the rest of it on this gasifier to try and figure out what would be the best method for using it. And I think I've come up with an idea. So you're going to see my first burn. It may work out, it might not. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to set both of them up, both the Kelly kettle and the gasifier. I'm going to boil exactly the same amount of water in both of them and compare the timings and try and work out, you know, is it as good as they say or is it not? So anyhow, less messing about, let's have a look at this gasifier stove. I'm gonna tilt the camera down a little bit for you so hopefully you can get a reasonable view of what I'm looking at. That should be better light. Right, so gasifier stove, it comes in a very good bag. I am quite impressed with the bag. Let's tilt that down a little bit further, get you a bit more on camera. Yeah, comes in a very good little bag. I'm quite impressed with that one. It's quite a sturdy bag. Comes out like that. As you have to bear, like I say, bear with me if I get this completely wrong. That's the first time using it. So what we got? Okay, we've got a ring for the top. Okay, so that's a shame. The way this ring's designed. So when let's get this right. See, so when this is set up, this is your burn pot. These vents here are where the gas is coming. So in theory how it works is you stack your wood, there are holes in the bottom of your burn tray, there are holes in the bottom here to allow oxygen in. So the oxygen initially comes up from the bottom, you light the fire on the top, and as it starts to heat here round this edge, these two walls create a draw, because the hot air in them rises and it starts to draw the fire down in that direction, circulating it back up through, or the smoke up through there. Now the smoke contains unburnt fuels. They superheat between the walls and ignite as they come out the holes here. So basically what you're creating is a wood gas generator. They used to run cars and generators on them during the Second World War. Not the most efficient system in the world, but it worked when you had minimum materials. And this is your cook ring, which sits on top. Now, what I've already noticed, and I think it's a shame for design, is these fold. So they can fold out, so they can take your cook pot, and that will sit on that like that, not a problem. But I think they've missed one in the fact that when they're turned in, if they were flat here, you could put smaller things on it, smaller cups. This is too small an area to balance a small cup or container on. However, if they were flat and didn't have these points, you would have somewhere that you could actually put smaller items. You can set it up like that, which would allow a cup, but you're raising it up even further. If you've got minimum resources and that, I would have thought you would want to be closer to the flame. But we will give it all a try anyhow. So, in theory, loading one of these. So the theory is to load one of these. Right, so you place the wood in this way and not flat. And the theory is that it burns down very similar to the Swedish fire log, really. You're burning the material from the ends. It'll be interesting, and I am looking forward to actually seeing how this works. I've got a combination of woods here, and it is literally wood from one of these bags that you buy from the garage. Why did I get one of those? Well, I haven't got a lot of dry wood at home. I felt off colour, and the garage is close enough for me to walk to pick up some wood. I've been told it doesn't really matter. In fairness to this and the Kelly kettle, this is obviously going to take a little bit of time to get going. The Kelly kettle, as we all know, is pretty much instantaneous. As soon as you lit it, it starts to go within seconds. So what I'm going to do is going to light this, and I'm going to let it start to burn properly before I ignite the Kelly kettle. And that's just out of fairness to the system, and the fact that I'm not so sure I've got it right. So and we may struggle a little bit today because it is very, very windy. So we'll see how this system works. And again, real world situation, it's a windy day. It's the first time using it. Do I have kit that I would use for the first time? No, I practice with it, work it out, and see if it's any good. Let's stuff that bit of cotton wool down inside there. Don't excuse me sniffing, I do apologise. And what I'm going to use is 4 small cotton wool balls with Vaseline on them. Because again, in a real world situation, I'd be looking at trying to get this lit as best I could, as fast as I could, and as efficiently as I could. So, as the old saying, 1 is none, 2 is 1. Right, so extend upon that. And again, because of what we're doing today, I'm not going to go with any fancy ferrocerium rods and that. You've all seen me do it enough. I keep saying to you, lighter is your first tool. Let's get that lit. Now I think one of the things I've probably done wrong, this is probably all too long anyhow. We'll see how it goes. Whilst we're waiting for that to get underway, we'll prep the firebox in the Kelly kettle. Let's just lift that up a little bit. Right. And the Kelly kettle we will ignite exactly the same way. What we will do, we will lay out some cotton wool balls in the bottom. You can see the pine sap coming up through the bits of wood there, which is helping that to get going. And obviously anytime you're cooking or using anything with a lot of pine sap in it, yes, it's going to burn readily. Use it as an initial fire starter, and if you want the fire to last, go to your hardwoods afterwards, because that resin will always help a fire to ignite. 4 cotton wool balls in that as well. Do nicely. Well, we're not long into it, and I will say the gasifier, although the wind's given it a bit of grief, it's ignited readily. It's burning down quite well. I'm going to let it get down sort of level with the top here before I place this on. And when I do that, I'm going to measure out the same amount of water into the kettle as I put into the... in fact, we'll do that now. Let's do it now. So 700 mils is what I like to go to for a brew, because it works out that I can make at least 3 cups of tea out of that. So if there's me, somebody else, it's 3 cups of tea. So there's no cheating. Don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but 700 mils in that, into the Kelly kettle from cold. And 700 mils in the kettle. There's the lid for the kettle. Right, as you can see, we've just put the top on the gasifier, and we will place our cup of water on top of that. We've just lit the Kelly kettle. We'll place the Kelly kettle on top, making sure that our spout is very gently in. This spout is a green spout. It's got a hole through it, that way it doesn't pressurise, but you put it in literally just gently, so it does need to pop off. It can do, it doesn't build any pressure. Usually you would keep that pointing away from people, so what we will do, we will turn that ever so slightly that way, and I'll load my Kelly kettle. Both systems seem to be standing up to the wind, which is a bit of a bonus, and again impresses me. Prep for the other fire. Right, so Kelly kettle is one of my go-tos. I do love it and I've always liked it, but one of the downsides you can get, if there's a lot of wind blowing around the top here, it can blow the smoke down and blow the fire out. If you have these and you place them on top, what it can do is it can act as a bit of a diffuser to the wind and keep it off of your fire. Well, we're starting to get a bit of steam from both of them. It's a bit difficult to see because that's a lot of pine in there, so of course it's been a bit smoky, and with the wind blowing it's not really helping, but there is steam coming out of the vent on the Kelly kettle, and there is steam coming up on the kettle. So yeah, they're both working very, very well. I'm just going to dive indoors, grab myself another Bovril, because I'm going to have an instant Bovril whilst I'm out here. That seems to help me. Oh, Kelly kettle's just starting to sing. So it looks like the Kelly kettle's got the edge. So the Kelly kettle's got the edge. Lift that off carefully. And I knew it would, basically because the way the system works. Load up the cooker on that. Losing my Bovril, that ruined my day. Now, let's have a look here, see how we're doing here. We are just off a boil on the kettle, so it is a couple of minutes between the two. Fuel efficiency, I'd say that the gasifier definitely has the edge. The materials are lasting a lot better. They're not burning as fast, which is probably equating to why it's cooked slightly slower. So yeah, Kelly kettle for speed, but I would say for the size of it and the efficiency of the burn, I am impressed with the gasifier. As a stove, it's working, it's doing its job as an outdoor in the wood stove. Yeah, I'm not burning the ground underneath it, although I would want a catch pan for the ash as it falls through. Would it take over from the Kelly kettle? Not for me. It would be an alongside. For smaller pack outs, yeah, it's a definite gasifier wins. For bigger pack outs, going away with the trailer, for doing groups, I would still go with the Kelly kettle. But I am, and I will say, might impress, especially as I say, with the fuel efficiency. If you've got a limited resource, it would work for you. Now, just starting to ignite my bit of wood underneath my base plate, which again I'm not too worried by that. That's what I have them for. They're sacrificial timber. It's some hardwood blocks that I managed to find from somewhere. Not far off the boil there. But I think what's happening, I think the fire underneath is probably stealing the oxygen input. So what we'll do there, we'll damp that down underneath, put that back on. Just feed in another bit of wood. It's too big. You definitely don't get as much smoke from a gasifier. Alright, obviously now I've said that it's going to smoke a little bit, but that's because I've just put fresh timber in there, and again that's resin rich, so that's always going to give off a bit of smoke. Kelly kettle cooker, yeah, it's doing what kind of kettle cookers do. I can cook on that now, not a problem at all. So yeah, it's horses for courses. For doing larger amounts, larger groups, I'd probably go with the Kelly kettle, purely for speed and efficiency of boiling water. As a cooker, I would probably go with the gasifier, because the gasifier seems to give a cleaner burn and it loses less materials. So yeah, you could use this as an outdoor go-to. It would work for you and it would keep you going. So yeah, we're simmering away quite nicely there, so it wouldn't take a lot to get that to a boil, and it wouldn't be time problematic. It would work for you. Right, kettle's boiling. So, what do we look at? Well, personally, it's about a 4 or 5 minute difference between the Kelly kettle and the gasifier. Pros of the Kelly kettle: speed and efficiency, right? And will burn anything. Anything that you can put in there will burn. The chimney effect turns it into a furnace, and it will consume anything. Small twigs are better; they burn faster. Gasifier, I'm impressed, really impressed. It is using literally no materials. I mean, the same amount of material I originally put in there is still burning away, and it would be very simple to restock that with more small twigs and logs, so it's an efficient burn. Kelly kettle, yeah, it eats materials. So yeah, so the Kelly kettle eats materials, goes through them like you wouldn't believe. The gasifier, very fuel efficient, and very impressed. I'm glad I've got it, and I look forward to use it on a few trips out. So, some other things, let's face it, because we're talking about prepping, well, of course, and we're talking about... There's your home backup in a survival situation. Old favourite, barbecue. Okay, you could use charcoal coals, which burn more efficiently and cleaner. You could use wood if you had to. You could salvage wood if you needed to. However, if you're salvaging wood, I would say to you, be careful. So if you're salvaging wood, one of the things you have to be aware of is a lot of woods that are used in buildings, a lot of woods that are used in furniture, they're treated timbers. So things like formaldehyde and that in them. So if you're barbecuing or you're using it outside, you're lighting up timbers that are salvaged, that are building furniture and so on, just bear in mind the varnishes, the treatments in them to preserve them and stop them getting woodworm and so on are toxic. However, if you've lit it outside, you've got plenty of oxygen flow, you stay out of the smoke. Once it's down to coals and embers, you will be able to cook on it. The toxins will have burnt off. So build a large fire in your barbecue, let it burn, make sure all that wood is down to coals and embers, then cook on it if you need to. If it's wood from the wild, the same thing applies. If you're somewhere where you've got lots of laurel, you don't really want to be breathing that smoke. It's full of cyanuric acid. So therefore, it can be very toxic. Once it's down to coals, then you could use it, but again, you would want to make sure you're somewhere out of the smoke. So that's barbecues. And if you've got a gas barbecue, make sure you've got a supply of gas. Set it up outside. I wouldn't do it inside. The carbon monoxide off it could be quite toxic. However, rig up a gazebo, rig up some sort of shelter, get yourself going under that. You can produce your meals. And lastly, and not leastly, we're going to go with the wood stove. And what I'm going to do for a bit of fun today on that, I'm going to jury rig an oven on it. And so there's an idea Jace gave me. He said, make an oven. So I'm going to do a home oven for you, and I'm going to get that lit up now. So we're talking about what you would be doing at home in an emergency situation. So I hope you'll all have some sort of fire lighters. have it there for lighting your barbecue, but also have it there in your emergency backup kit. Because if push comes to shove, you could use these to cook on their own. Let's get the little stove going. So, here we go. This is what I go with. This is what I would have, or I have, as my home emergency backup cook system. This will work in any conditions. It provides me with a heat source that I can cook on. As we've said in the past, it's fuel efficient. Kettle on. Over 700, in fact, what are we looking at there? Looking at about 850 mils of water. So I can get a kettle on there. What I've done here is use a glove because it gets warm. So here's a tip for you. And this isn't my idea, this is Jason's idea. So this is a crock pot or stock pot, stew pot, whatever you want, big saucepan, grill, feet on the bottom, with a lid, placed on there, becomes an oven. Now, you could cook bread in that, you could cook pies in that, you could probably cook a chicken in that, you could cook chops in that, you could pretty much anything you want to do in an oven you can do in that. It's not the most controllable of heats, but again, in an emergency you're talking about efficiency, aren't you? You're talking about what can I do, and you're also, like I say, getting back to a survival situation. So power down, grid down, what are you going to lose? So you're going to lose electricity, so your freezer's packed up, your fridge is packed up. Now, tips to you there, keep the doors shut. If you've got freezer blocks, throw them straight in. They will chill down, right, and keep the cold longer than just leaving it in the air. Then you need to think, what do I need to use up first? Leave your tinned goods alone, leave your dry goods alone, okay? You're going to start making meals out of the stuff before you lose it. So, you could make a big stew, okay? Now, if you've made a big stew, you keep it hot, you keep it simmering, it can last for days and days and days. That's using up some resources. There are things you don't want to stew. Okie doke, cook it off. Is it going to last longer cooked off? Some things, once you've cooked them off, you can keep them for a few days, not a problem at all. But you want to use the resources. Open that freezer, a few seconds. Think about what you want out of it. Go in, get it out. Okay? So at the end of the day, you're using up those resources you're going to lose first, to eke out the resources that you know will last you for longer. You can cook on this. My go-to in any survival situation is usually stews. If you go with a stew and there's plenty of fluids in it, you can keep it simmering, simmering, simmering. You're keeping it sterile. Okay? There are stew pots in tribal groups around the world that have never been cleaned in generations. They're just topped up with water, topped up with meat, topped up with vegetables. So it just keeps going and going and going and going. You can keep a fire going like this for days. Okay? Again, the resources you're putting into it, you're not so restricted on whether it's going to give off fumes or chemicals. So if it's treated wood, that chimney's 10 feet tall, it's not exposing your food or the stuff you're trying to prepare to those chemicals. It's going up the chimney, it's going away, it's also getting a more efficient burn. So therefore you can cook on it, use it, and pretty much abuse it. That's my emergency cook system. That's what I would use at home in a grid down situation. Now indoors, if it was bitterly cold, it's absolute winter, then I could probably rig up a shelter out here, round this and over it. This would heat the shelter. It would be warm whilst I'm preparing food. Might well even be warmer than it was indoors for short periods of time. But if you've got to go inside, you can use your gas stove, as I said before. You can use your Trangier. You can use chafing gels. Those are the gels that they use in restaurants to heat the trays, keep food warm on your table. They're a very, very good system. You can usually buy them in bulk. They're not particularly good for boiling stuff on, however, but for keeping food hot, giving off a heat source, they're brilliant. Another tip I can give you is to take a chafing gel, a large clay terracotta style pot, sit that over it with an inch gap underneath. The heat from that gel will heat the terracotta. The terracotta will then radiate the heat into the room. It becomes a heater, and they're non-toxic. The fumes they give off aren't at a high risk to human beings, so that will keep you going. But again, fire safety, fire safety, fire safety. Make sure that you do it on a surface that's not going to ignite. Make sure you do it. I mean, I'd use a thing like a baking tray. Sit it inside a baking tray. Again, use of candles in those sort of emergencies. Your first thought's got to be safety. Don't start leaving candles all around the house, in the bathroom, in the bedroom, so you can see where you're going. Take the candle with you. Okay. If you start leaving candles and that unattended, they burn down, the wax can ignite, they can ignite other surfaces. So, you know, just be safe, be careful. But that's what I would do in a home emergency. Now, I do apologise again that I haven't got out into the woods, but I'm really not feeling up to it, and I don't think I'll be safe driving. I'm feeling a bit dozy. Hence, Kaz is going to come out in a minute and make sure that I've got all this put away safely when it goes out, and that she'll just keep an eye on me. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you're all feeling a bit better than I am. I hope you're having a great time wherever you are. I'm looking forward to in the next week or two getting back out into the woods, because I miss it. Keep safe, keep calm. Those guys that are subscribed to us, fantastic, you know, we appreciate it. And those of you that got your own video channels, yes, I subscribe back to you guys and I watch your videos and I look and I learn. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it all. Everybody, have a great time, be good wherever you are, and be safe. Mick out.